This is the brief on the surprising power of tiny changes. Okay, so the idea, inspired by Atomic Habits, isn't about massive overhauls. Real success comes from tiny 1% improvements day after day. We often chase big transformations, right? And totally miss how powerful these small, consistent gains really are. First, habits are like compound interest for you. Get just 1% better daily for a year, you end up nearly 37 times better. But slip 1% daily, and you basically wind up near zero. These small bits really accumulate, even if it's hard to notice at first. Second, take the British cycling team. Before 2003, almost a century of mediocrity. Then director Dave Brailsford brought in aggregation of marginal gains, finding 1% improvements everywhere. Think tiny tweaks, better bike seats, special recovery gels, optimal hand washing, even personalized pillows for sleep. The payoff was huge. 60% of the golds at the 2008 Olympics, plus 5 Tour de France wins in 6 years. Finally, this is crucial. Focus on systems, not just goals. Goals set direction, sure, but systems drive progress. Achieving a goal, like cleaning a messy room, is temporary if the underlying habits, the system, stay messy. Remember the core idea. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Your real success comes down to continuously committing to and refining that daily process.
You know, when we think about massive, life-altering success, we usually picture some huge, dramatic moment. But what if that's all wrong? Today, we're diving into James Clear's amazing book, Atomic Habits, to explore a really powerful idea, that the most remarkable results in life actually come from tiny, almost invisible changes. And to really get it, we need to start with a story.
So, let me ask you this. How does a professional sports team go from being a total joke for over 100 years to becoming one of the most dominant forces in the history of their sport? This isn't a hypothetical. This actually happened to the British cycling team. And the story of how they did it, well, it changes everything.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say they were bad. This wasn't just a slump or a few off years. We're talking about a full century of being, well, pretty mediocre. They were stuck at the bottom, and it seemed like they were never getting out.
Okay, just look at this contrast. It's absolutely staggering. Before 2003, they had won a single Olympic gold in 100 years. Not one British cyclist had ever won the Tour de France. It got so bad that top bike companies literally refused to sell them their equipment because they thought it would hurt their brand. But then, look at what happens after 2003. 178 World Championships, 66 Olympic or Paralympic golds, and 5 Tour de France wins in just 6 years. It's considered maybe the most successful run in the history of the sport.
It's just an insane turnaround, right? So what was the secret? What was the magic bullet that changed everything? Well, it wasn't one big thing. It was something much, much smaller.
In 2003, they hired a new performance director named Dave Brailsford. And he brought in this new philosophy, a new way of thinking he called the aggregation of marginal gains. The idea was actually super simple. He said, let's break down everything you could possibly think of that goes into riding a bike. And then let's just improve each of those things by 1%. Just 1%. He was convinced all those tiny improvements would add up to something huge.
And they looked for that 1% everywhere. I mean, in places you would never think to look. Sure, they started with the obvious stuff, making the bike seats more comfortable, rubbing alcohol on the tires for a little extra grip, but then they went deeper. They hired a surgeon to teach the athletes the right way to wash their hands to cut down on colds. They tested different massage gels, they figured out the exact pillow and mattress that led to the best night's sleep for each individual rider. Get this, they even painted the inside of the team truck white just so they could spot tiny bits of dust that might mess with the finely tuned bikes. Any one of those things, pretty insignificant. But all of them together, wow, they became unstoppable.
But here's the thing, this isn't just a cool sports story. The idea behind it is a universal principle. It's about the math of tiny gains, and honestly, when you see the numbers, it's kind of mind-blowing.
37.78. What on earth could that number mean? Well, that number, that is the power of getting just 1% better every single day for a year.
Look at this chart. It's so simple, but so powerful. If you get just 1% better each day, by the time a year is up, you will be nearly 38 times better than you were when you started. But here's the scary part. The reverse is also true.
If you let yourself slip by just 1% each day, you decline almost all the way down to 0. See, those small, tiny choices we make every day, they don't feel like much in the moment, but over time, they compound into something enormous.
James Clear has the perfect metaphor for this. He says, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. It's just like money in a bank account, right? The effects of your habits literally multiply as you repeat them. You don't get in shape by going to the gym once, but the compound effect of going over and over for months, that's where the real transformation happens.
Okay, but that brings up a really important question. If this compounding effect is so powerful, why is it so hard to stick with good habits? It's because for a long time, it feels like nothing is happening. We get stuck in what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential.
Think about an ice cube in a really cold room. You start to slowly turn up the heat. 28 degrees, nothing happens. 30 degrees, still just an ice cube. 31 degrees, still no change. It feels like all that effort, all that energy is being wasted. But then you hit 32 degrees and everything changes. You get a breakthrough. The change wasn't sudden. It was the result of all that potential, all that stored energy that came before it.
This gap, the gap between what we expect to happen, which is a straight line of progress, and what actually happens, that gap is the valley of disappointment. It's that incredibly frustrating time when you know you're putting in the work, but you're just not seeing the results yet. And this, right here, is where most people quit. They think it's not working, but the work isn't wasted, it's just being stored.
The writer Jacob Riis told this perfect story about a stonecutter. The stonecutter might hammer away at a rock 100 times, and nothing, not even a crack, shows. But then, on the 101st blow, the rock splits in two. And we know, right? We know it wasn't just that last hit that did it. It was all the 100 hits that came before it. A breakthrough moment is just the result of all your past actions finally hitting a critical point.
So how do you push through that valley long enough to get to the breakthrough? This is where the book suggests a pretty radical shift in your thinking. It's time to forget about setting goals and to focus on your systems instead.
So what's the difference? Well, goals are about the results you want to achieve. Win the championship, lose 20 pounds, write a book. The system is the process that gets you there. It's how you recruit and practice. It's what you eat and how you exercise. It's your daily writing habit. The goal sets the direction, but it's the system that actually makes the progress.
Because focusing only on goals, it can actually backfire. First of all, winners and losers have the exact same goals, right? Every team in the league wants to win the championship. The goal itself isn't what separates them. Second, hitting a goal is just a temporary change. You can have the goal to clean your messy room, and you do it. Great. But if you don't change the system, your sloppy habits, it's just going to be messy again next week. Goals also tend to make us postpone happiness, thinking, oh, I'll be happy when I achieve this. And finally, they can create this yo-yo effect, where as soon as you hit the target, all your motivation just vanishes. And all of this leads to what might be the single most important sentence in the entire book. You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. Your goals are your wish, your dream, but your system is your reality. It's the floor you can't fall below. It's your commitment to that daily 1% improvement that truly determines where you end up.
So, I'll leave you with this to think about. Everything you have in your life right now is a lagging measure of your past habits. So, take a second and ask yourself, what is one system in my life, good or bad, that's guiding my trajectory right now? Because whatever that system is, that's what's going to decide where you land.